and we're rolling. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's been a minute. Today's video is a little bit different. I did a thing. I escaped the city on my own. I traveled. Here's some footages.
Let's do the tour, shall we?
The minute I got on the train, my phone started going off, text calls from family friends because it was my birthday. And they were like, what are you doing this year? How come I wasn't invited? Are you okay? I was more than okay. This was a very, very deliberately planned solo trip. And by the way, I am not saying that you should go on a solo trip. This is actually not an advertisement or an endorsement of solo trips. And it certainly isn't about eat, pray, love either. It's really not. I actually really don't like the concept of eat, pray, love. I don't understand it. It's about something deeper, which is what self-care means and also what healing means. I actually don't really like to travel. And that is because when I was growing up, I moved around quite a bit against my will. I moved to a different city or country every 3 years. I changed schools like over 10 times. Like, traveling for me is not fun. If anything, it's kind of like a traumatic and a very uprooting experience. My intention with this video is for you to follow this framework and find an activity for your birthday that you can give to yourself as an activity that's genuinely fulfilling for you, instead of doing what everyone else says that you should do. Number 1, what gives you energy? That seems like such an easy question, right? A lot of people don't know what gives them energy, like what energizes them. They have to actually sit there and think. We live in a society where we're more quick to identify what drains us as opposed to recharging us. And if you're watching this channel, the chances are you are an empath, you're very sensitive, you're very intuitive. And what that means is that you have a hard time separating your energy from other people. So honestly, the last thing that you would need is to force yourself to go on a vacation with someone that you don't feel comfortable around or someone that you have to look out for. This is like a perpetual empath issue, right? Like always being around people and absorbing their energy. And with my job and the kind of work that I do, I am surrounded by people's energy, let alone I already live in Manhattan where like we all live on top of each other. So for me, it was less about doing something to like charge my batteries. It was more about taking my energy back, being able to isolate myself in a way where I wasn't absorbing shit that I didn't want to absorb. It's not because I'm antisocial or like don't like people or like shutting people out. Actually, if anything, I really like people. If I didn't, I don't think I could do what I do. I also don't think that I could go to places on my own if I didn't like people, because you're bound to bump into strangers and have to interact with them and ask for favors, which I did, by the way. So once again, what gives you energy? Is it a trip to Vegas? Is it a night out at like the hottest club in Vegas? Great, go do that. I mean, not right now because, you know, quarantine. But the point is, are you really in tune with yourself and your body and your emotions to identify what energizes you versus what depletes you? For me, it was whatever it takes for me to separate myself from the energies around me. That was the greatest gift I can give to myself in a form of energizing. Also, remember, I'm a reflector according to human design, so I really have to be in the right environment. I'm constantly reflecting the people and the environment around me. So if I'm not in a place or in an environment that is set up for my happiness and for my comfort, I get very disgruntled really quickly. Second, a really good question to ask yourself is, what heals you? Like, what is healing to you? Again, it sounds like a really dumb question. A lot of people don't know. One of my favorite definitions of healing is that to heal is to experience the opposite of the trauma that you've experienced. So for example, if you have abandonment issues, to heal that, you have to experience what it's like to be embraced and not be abandoned. If your feelings have been invalidated your entire life, to heal that, you have to have experience of having your feelings validated. So bring it back to the original question, what heals you? And for me, once again, because I'm constantly bombarded and surrounded by energies, it only made sense for me to isolate myself. But the deeper form of healing that I really needed, and as you can tell, this requires some level of self-awareness, is my life is very orderly. I like to plan shit out almost like it's nobody's business. I have a content calendar, I have a personal calendar, I have a business calendar. I like things to be a certain way. Now I'm not so extreme like some people that plan like 5, 10, 15 years out. I actually think that's like just dumb and impractical because so many things can change along the way. But I do make sure that the most foreseeable short-term future is almost always like planned out, or at least there's loose placeholders so that I know immediately in the near future where my energy should go, because where energy flows is what is most likely to manifest. So if I am constantly living, not necessarily on edge, but in that planning mode, to heal that is to experience the opposite, which is to chill out and not do that. And I'm actually a very chill traveler. Once again, that kind of goes back to my childhood. Like my life was on schedule. Every 3 years I had to just like get up and go. Like it was very planned out. And so it's kind of weird, but our family had to almost like pre-plan movers and almost pre-plan like logistical things, like even before we really got to like call a place a home. It's like very odd. So I kind of adopted this like rebellious mentality of like, well, if I'm going to travel, I'm just gonna like almost like plan nothing, have zero itinerary. And not everyone's okay with that. Like I actually don't know anybody who can travel like that. But you know, I'm also a believer of like synchronicities and things happen for a reason, and the right people come into your life at the right time, kind of a thing. Like actually, my Airbnb host got me balloons for my birthday, and I did not expect that. That was really, really sweet of him. Shout out, thank you. Ironically, this is kind of like what I teach, right? Like if you are not as rigid and as controlling, like synchronicities do happen, and life will surprise you. The universe will surprise you, and that's exactly what happened. And I'm not gonna go into the full thing, but like there were things that happened in the trip where I was like, whoa, I can't believe this. Like I got like random strangers gave me gifts. I had like the coolest conversations with like some shop owners out in the area that I normally wouldn't ever get to have in Manhattan, and somehow it felt much more close and intimate to have those conversations than I would with like people in my life back in Manhattan, if that makes sense. And that's kind of ironically exactly what I needed. So yeah, so what I needed at the time to heal myself was to not have a buttoned up itinerary. So a good question to ask yourself is, what are you experiencing in life right now that you would like to experience the opposite of so that you can heal? And deliberately create that activity and environment so that you can heal that. Third, what's your relationship with the idea of relationships and with the idea of being alone? I don't know why everybody's so stuck on this idea of like, if it's a special milestone in your life, you have to celebrate with someone else. And if you go somewhere, you have to go with someone else, or you have to, it's like, who cares? Honestly, do you know how many times I refer people who are in relationships that they hate, but they don't want to get out until they find like a backup plan, like they find like that next person? It's like, what the fuck? It's like such a giant waste of emotional energy. Or, you know, they play musical chair and grab the closest chair before the music stops so that at least like they get to sit down, so that they have a partner or a roommate or a travel buddy before it's too late, even though they just may not get along or like may hate their guts. I just think that's so dangerous. I actually think that the way society makes us think about and approach relationships sets us up for failure, for even greater unhappiness, rather than like sincere, authentic happiness. Like I understand that we're social creatures, but a lot of us go to extreme lengths to not be alone, to a point where it's almost like moronic. And I cannot emphasize enough the importance of synchronicities, because part of the issue with relationships that our society teaches us, right, is like this whole idea of control, like controlling milestones, when, how, where it should happen, with what kind of person. And the thing is, if you live and plan your life like that, nothing really goes your way. It just doesn't. I think that you can put out intention. I think that you can put out the energy of what it is you desire. But I think that the more you follow certain rules, because that's how that you were taught to be, I just think that it will more like backfire on you. And this is a bonus, but because this was kind of like a loosely planned trip, it actually, a lot of cool stuff happened that like really surprised me. I relied on my intuition to like feel out which restaurant to check out, to feel out what store to go into. I even kind of like felt out the Airbnb. I just kind of randomly picked one, and I ended up staying at Marilyn Monroe's old home. So I think that once again, going back to the whole notion of like it's an important milestone in your life, and you know, oh my God, you're going somewhere. Like everything has to be so like controlled and planned, and like how could you do this by yourself, like all that stuff. Like once I threw that out the window and just kind of let things unfold, like shit just kind of happened that was pretty amazing. And I think that if you're always like trying to follow societal rules and be like, I gotta live like this, like you're zapping yourself, you're robbing yourself of the opportunity to experience something magical. So next time a really important life milestone comes up, or you have an opportunity to go somewhere and you feel the temptation to like grab a buddy, like that's cool, but just slow down and ask yourself, like, what's the fear behind all this? Like, what am I really missing out on if I didn't do the conventional thing, or if I just chose to do this by myself? Like, you know, it's an exercise of self-reflection, if anything. And again, I'm a reflector, so I think, I mean, I'm definitely a minority here where like I like being alone. I need to be alone for a period of time. But I also think that there is virtue in examining our relationship with the idea of a relationship and making sure that we don't fall into the trappings of being tied to something or someone just because like we feel we have to, and really it's just toxic for us. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, very different from usual videos. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, comment, subscribe, you know what to do, and I will return to the usual pick a cards real soon. Okay, take care, bye bye.